You know that scene in Empire Strikes Back where Han Solo sees Darth Vader and he starts shooting?
Yeah.
You should have kicked him in the nuts. Kick him in the nuts. Kick him in the nuts. Kick him in the nuts. Yeah. Kick him in the nuts. This. Kick him in the nuts, yeah. Kicked him in the nuts. Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, Jedi and Sith. My name is Kettlecord, not by birth, and this is the Whistling Kettle Podcast. Today I am joined by my friend House Furcifer. Say hello, Furcifer.
Hello again. Thanks for having me again.
It's no worries, always a pleasure. And we will be discussing the topic of what is the best class story. We have a few suggestions from Reddit users at the end too, so stick around for that. I'll be going first. Personally, I think that the best class story in the game is the Sith Warrior storyline. The Sith Warrior storyline to a lot of people isn't the best, but I personally think that it is the one whose story most in keeps with the character you want to play as. Such as, you go into a Sith Warrior storyline, you want to play a Sith Warrior. He's not always a mindless brute, but you do get that aspect of just pure violence that you would expect from a Sith character, as well as having surprises and intricacies in the storyline that you don't expect. So it's really got a bit for everyone. You can play a light side too, which isn't as dysfunctional and disjointed as I thought it would have been to play a light side Sith Warrior. It actually, works pretty well. So that's my take on the Sith Warrior. I think it is the best class story in the game. What do you think of that first?
I'd actually agree with that mostly. I think the Sith Warrior, it's kind of a very classic story of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
The plot points towards the end, especially in chapters 2 and 3, they're very, very classic Sith lore. And I think the storyline does a great job of not only representing it, but playing it in such a way that it feels almost refreshing, I think. At least that's how I felt when I was playing it. I have to be honest now, I will say the first chapter of the Sith Warrior story, I felt got a little bit boring.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's one of the things about the class stories. If you can stick it through the first chapter, because I think the first chapters in all of them are a little bit dodgy.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Sith Warrior's final 2 chapters are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, good to hear. I felt that the Sith Warrior storyline was a right to a wrong by a previous Star Wars game, because before playing Star Wars The Old Republic, I played Star Wars The Force Unleashed. Have you played The Force Unleashed?
I've played both of them.
Right. Well, we're talking specifically about the first one. We don't talk about the second one.
Oh no, we certainly don't.
So the first Star Wars The Force Unleashed game, at my young age, I can't have been older than 9, maybe. Well, actually, is that right? I don't know. I was pretty young. It felt original at the beginning because you were playing as the bad guy. You were playing, using Force lightning and killing people and using your red lightsaber. And for the first 3 missions, you hunted down General Ramkota, Shark T, and the other guy on Raxus Prime. I can't remember. And that was it felt so original and invigorating to be the bad guy. And then after that 3rd mission, you have a betrayal by Darth Vader, and suddenly you're the good guy.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah, spoiler alert to people who are watching in 2010 or whatever.
10 years afterwards.
Yeah, if you haven't got round to it. By the way, Vader is Luke's father, if you haven't caught up. But this game, coming into it, I thought, I'll choose Sith Warrior, I'll do some Sithy stuff, and then I'll just end up a Jedi again. That's how it always goes. And then to play the storyline and just be a Sith all the way through, and actually do some stuff where if you choose the dark side option, it's pretty barbaric, like cutting down people who are begging for mercy.
Oh,
It
completely.
it was very, in a sadistic way, enjoyable. Um, well, you can't say it's not sadistic because it is just enjoying the brutality of it all. So that
Yeah.
is why the Sith Warrior storyline, as well as being the first storyline I fully completed in this game, is my favourite.
I actually just want to add a little note to that
Go on.
with the brutality. One of my favorite scenes in the Sith Warrior storyline is when you meet the Organa General in her bunker,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and yeah, that was just the dark side option there is so brutal.
Well, there's a
It
couple.
really
There's
was.
you can either kill all of her servants, I think. Or
Yeah.
wait, can you kill everybody in the bunker? I
Oh,
think.
you can kill absolutely every single one of them.
Right, yeah. So you go in to people who don't know what the scene we're talking about. You go in, and the general of the Organa army, or one of the generals,
Yeah.
keeps up this facade of, oh, you can torture me and my servants, we won't break. And then you start torturing one of the servants, which in and of itself is the kind of darkness that we're talking about. And she starts begging to let him go because it's her lover. So you've got three options there. You can either stop torturing and she'll tell you what you want to know. You can kill him and all of the other servants, or you can get the information you want and then kill everyone in the bunker.
Mm,
Um, and it's just it was so surprising because honestly, there's a lot of points in this game where the lack of choice really gets to you, like fetch quests on the smuggler. On Taris is a good example. You like fetch something to this guy, and he says,
oh yeah.
"Oh, can you go and do me this favor?" And you've got three options, and all of them are yes, just said
Crazy.
differently. So to get
Yeah.
that choice is somewhat surprising and really good. It sticks in my mind. The fact that I can recall um, missions like that from memory. Like I haven't played the Sith Warrior in a while because I've been doing Trooper and Smuggler. So to just be able to recall that scene, it shows the kind of impact that the Sith Warrior storyline has.
Oh, completely.
So, moving on. What did you say your favourite storyline was?
Well, I'm going to be the controversial one.
Devil's
I'm going to
Advocate?
say that my favorite storyline is actually the Jedi Consular.
Oh, he went there. The most dull, the most boring. Please enlighten us why it's the Jedi Consular. This should be good.
Okay, I played the Jedi Consular before playing the Jedi Knight, and like the Sith Warrior for you was the first story you got through.
Mhm.
Consular for me was the one I got through first.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so perhaps I'm blinded in a little bit by nostalgia, but I think from a critical point of view, the Consular story is very much like the Sith Warrior story in that it is that character to a T.
Mhm.
And even the chapters are kind of very evenly distributed between all three jobs of a Jedi Consular. Like, maybe spoiler alert here, but I don't know. Um, the first chapter is all about
Mhm.
healing the infected Jedi Masters on each planet.
Mhm.
Chapter two is aiding in a diplomatic process, the Rift Alliance, I believe it's called.
Oh right, yeah. I haven't
Uh,
finished the Consular. I think I got halfway through the last chapter.
yeah. Well, you have to go to you have to help the Rift Alliance and the planets that are disillusioned with the Republic or are in trouble and need the Republic's assistance.
Mhm.
And then the final chapter expands upon something that was in the Jedi Knight storyline, only, I suppose, only briefly. But the last chapter of the Consular story turns it into a very big plot point, and that is the children of the Emperor.
Right.
And I feel that. Oh, and sorry, just to go back on that, the reason why that chapter works for the Jedi Consular as a mission for them is that Jedi Shadow is one of the subspecs, and in lore, their whole gig is about seeking out and destroying darkness.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
thought it was very interesting that you know, the consular got what I would deem one of the more interesting aspects of the Jedi Knight storyline and got
Hmm.
to run with it.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. I'm going to mount an argument against that. This argument's pretty blunt. I didn't form a a well informed opinion against this, but I'm just going to put this to you. It is boring. A lot of the pacing is very off time. A lot doesn't happen for ages. It's like a TV show that has 10 episodes in a series and 8 of them are filler.
Mm.
So
I
the bits that are good in the consular storyline are really good, but
yeah,
a lot of it is just building up to it, and it's just filler, and it just feels like nothing's happening.
and I
Um,
think that is one of the differences between the consular story and the Jedi Knight story, in that it's not a planet or not a planet, not planet. It's not a galaxy spanning adventure like the Jedi Knight. The Jedi Knight on every planet almost has this big heroic moment that
mhm,
they need to save a planet, save a person, redeem somebody, all that kind of classic Jedi Knight stuff.
mhm,
The consular is more on a lower end of that spectrum. It's very much the average
mhm.
Jedi, I think, well, to a degree. Um, a lot of what the consular does is very average Jedi material.
Yeah,
And I think that appeals to me more than the high flying adventure, but I can see why people would dislike it because it isn't an adventure. It's almost like a job.
yeah. Well, true. Um, so we're gonna move on now, unless you have something else to say.
No, I'm okay with that.
So we got quite a lot of submissions in from Reddit today, which I'm quite happy to say. Um, I've chosen the best three,
That works.
um, and I've contacted the three people, and I've told them that they will be getting some form of reward. So, the first one by Torbzors. He says, a lot of people say the Imperial Agent has the best story, and with good reason. The story offers a lot of interesting choices and gives you plenty of freedom to play the kind of agent you want to be. It's very exciting to see everything from behind the scenes and not be an absolute powerhouse. Now, there's 3 paragraphs to this answer, can I just say? So, let's talk about them one at a time. So that's the first paragraph, talking about how the Imperial Agent is very behind the scenes. What do you think of
Mm.
that?
I'd say definitely it's a different kind of story where other classes like uh, the warrior, the inquisitor, uh, bounty hunter to an extent, but not really,
Mhm.
and even like pretty much all of the Republic classes, you play as this leader, and it's somebody that is creating a they're becoming a visual representation of their class.
Yeah.
And, at certain points in the game, everybody starts to kind of become familiar with them.
Mhm.
And the agent definitely is different in that regard because it really sticks to the idea of espionage and being silent.
Now, I can't really input too much in this part of the discussion because I never finished the prologue for Imperial Agent. It's never, it's never gripped me. I've never felt the
Yeah,
urge to. I've just heard good things about it and seen the occasional clip. Um,
it's definitely an interesting story, and it's got different, I think, story beats
mhm.
compared to the others.
So that was just the first paragraph of this answer, and there's 3, which is why this person won part of the reward. For all viewers listening, I posed this question on Reddit either the day before or a few hours before we filmed the podcast. The 3 best answers all win some form of in-game reward. Due to the podcast being in its early stages, this week was just a simple prize of the top 3 answers all get 1,000,000 credits, which is pretty good for an answer. But hopefully that will step up in the future. So, rightly so, this person won part of the reward. The second paragraph was, speaking of powerhouses, my second choice would be the Sith Warrior, my man. If you fantasized about playing a Dark Lord of the Sith, then this is the story for you. While the story doesn't offer as much freedom of choice as the Imperial Agent, you still get to interact with a lot of interesting characters that will, in one way or another, help you in your quest towards great power. It's very exciting to see you rise in the ranks from a mere acolyte to the Emperor's personal enforcer. So, we've already talked a lot about the Sith Warrior, but have you got anything to comment on that? It's okay if you say no. I don't really have anything to say on that.
Just in regards of the interesting people, I would say that's definitely one of the things that the Imperial classes have over the Republic classes.
Mm-hmm.
In that, I think a lot of the companions and even the NPCs that are part of the main story, they're a little bit unusual in comparison to the Republic side.
Yeah, and just a little thing, I think the companions are some of the best in the game. Like, if you asked me to name all of the Sith Warrior companions, I could, and I don't think I could do that for any other class in the game, except maybe Trooper. But that's only because I only recently finished the Trooper story.
Yeah.
So, last one. My third choice is harder to make, as many of SWTOR's stories offer something unique and interesting. Ultimately, however, I would say the Smuggler is my third choice. The Smuggler deviates from other classes in that it isn't as serious or plot heavy. In comparison, the Jedi Knight is all about defeating the big bad evil guy, whereas the Smuggler is mostly about having fun on your various wacky adventures and interacting with a huge gallery of interesting characters. Some might find the Smuggler a bit boring in comparison to the epic storyline of a class like the Jedi Knight, but I think that is exactly what makes the Smuggler so much fun to play. You're just a regular guy/gal in a great big galaxy, and adventure is just on the other side of the door. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think I won't go so far as to say that the Smuggler is just a regular guy or gal, but definitely has a lot less going for him than any of the other classes, because both of the Sith have that going for them. They're both Sith, they're both Jedi. The Trooper is elite Havoc Squad. The Imperial Agent is a master of espionage, and the Bounty Hunter is ruthless. Whereas the Smuggler has a lot less going for him, and it's just a guy with a blaster who wants to make some money. And so it's a lot more relaxed and funny, and it sort of gives you time to enjoy it, and you get to focus on your objective one at a time. You're not thinking about the big picture all the time. I would say a drawback of the Smuggler is when it comes to the expansions, and especially Shadow of Revan onwards. For someone who at the end of the day is just a criminal, like we said earlier, just a guy with a blaster who wants to make some money, and you get into Knights of the Fallen Empire, and suddenly you've got all this stuff where he's leader of an alliance and he's trying to take down Arkan. It feels very out of sync with the rest of the Smuggler story, because there is no reason why someone of this caliber would take up such a role.
I agree with that completely.
But what do you think about the rest of the message? Like,
Well, as you were to say, I agree with all that as well, because the first class story I ever played, now not fully completed, Consular was the first class I completed, but the first class I played at all was a Smuggler. And I have to say that the Smuggler uses... Okay, SWTOR has this, like, goofy music whenever anything happens. I'm pretty sure in the Smuggler story that song is played, that little 2-second clip song is played at least 5 times on every planet.
Yeah.
There's always something funny, something that's happened, some disaster that's happened, and it's just completely comical.
Yeah.
And I think that plays to it the best. I can't think... There are no other classes like that one, I think. Not to the same level of humour.
Yeah, I agree completely. So I just want to say a big congratulations to the person who sent in that message, Tobzos. Moving on, we have the next one. This is another long one, right? So, having played all 8 stories at least twice, this is my order. First, Imperial Agent. I'm going to shorten these down just a bit, because it is a long one. Spying, counter-spying, 3 different endings, a masterpiece. Second, Trooper. Some really hard choices, brackets, life is a bitch, and you must choose who to live, who to die. Third, Inquisitor. Rise from the abyss to become a Darth. I don't like playing Darkside, but it honestly was fun. Fourth, Smuggler. A shitty chapter 1, no other word, just FedEx. Literally. Chapters 2 and 3 are good, however, plus the conversations are funny, catchable, and enjoyable. Fifth, Consular. A first chapter quite meh, but chapters 2 and 3 are pretty good. The story doesn't make sense if you play Darkside though. So, before we move on to the next 3, what do you think of those 5?
I
Trooper
agree
is the
with
one.
that.
Trooper and Inquisitor we haven't really talked about today.
Yeah. Admittedly, I haven't played the Trooper. I haven't gotten past chapter 1
Wow.
on the Trooper
I think you're missing
story.
out because I really enjoy the Trooper. Like we were saying with the Sith Warrior being the character that you fully expect him to be, but still being surprising. I think that can
Yeah.
be said for the Trooper too.
I don't know. I think the Trooper is a little bit meh in that regard because, at least from my experience, if you try to play anything other than yes sir, it makes the story feel a little bit disjointed. Very much like what they said about um, the Consular story. I agree with that completely. Consular on Darkseid makes absolutely zero sense.
Yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
And I think while the Trooper can be a little more morally ambiguous, I think if you try to be in any way sarcastic or kind of going against the authority, it kind of ruins everything in it.
mm,
So I
yeah,
think, I don't know, the playing the yes character, I don't know. I found it quite difficult to get through.
fair
Even to
enough.
get through chapter 1 was a bit dragged for me.
So he captions this bit. From here, it gets quite ugly. Jedi Knight. Meh. First planet. Oh, Jedi. Bad Siths have stolen some Deus Ex Machina which will end the war if used. Please get it back. Same on all 8 next planets. Boring. I've got to agree with him there. I don't enjoy the Jedi Knight storyline. I've only completed it once because I felt like I was needed to, as a lot of people consider it to be a spiritual successor to the KOTOR games. But I didn't enjoy it and I dragged myself through it. What do you think?
I have the same problem with the Jedi Knight that a lot of people had with The Force Awakens. It's too much like a retread of basically the original trilogy in a way.
I guess I can see that. Just yeah.
Because the first chapter is all about learning your abilities, starting out, being the hero, and you do save the day in the end. And to save the day, you have to lose your um, mentor figure.
Yep.
Chapter 2 is like the Empire Strikes Back. You know,
Yeah.
things are getting a little bit desperate, and the
Mhm.
good guys don't really make it out in the end of that chapter.
Mhm.
And then chapter 3 is basically Return of the Jedi. Get everybody back on the light side, and then beat the ever loving stuffing out of the Emperor. Which, oh, spoiler alert, all around.
We've covered spoilers anyway.
Yeah.
He says the Jedi. Oh, sorry. Are you still talking about the Knight?
I just had one final thing to say about it. It's just
Go
that
on.
I feel with most Star Wars games, you always have that kind of classic Star Wars feel to them.
Mhm.
And the reason why I would rank personally the Jedi Knight as one of the lowest classes to play is that it really is just a classic Star Wars story
Mhm.
that's been the same since 1977.
Hmm.
And like, okay, show me something new.
Yeah, fair enough. So, under that he says, the Jedi Pendant, the Sith Warrior. Copy-paste the story of Jedi Knight and translate it to the dark side. Welcome to Sith Warrior story. I don't agree with that, because I think it's the best story in the game, but other than that, I think the rest of this guy's answer is well enough to be featured. What do you think?
Well, I would agree that I would disagree with you and agree with them that Warrior is not the best story in the game, but it's definitely one of the most interesting because it is an in-depth look at the Sith.
Well, this guy thinks it's just shit.
I would say that it differs from. They made a comment there about copy paste the Jedi Knight story,
Yeah.
then translate it to the Sith.
Mm.
I would agree to the extent that Sith Warrior is definitely classic what you'd expect of a Sith.
Mm-hmm.
However, Sith Warrior gets bonus points for being actually interesting.
Fair enough. And lastly, the Bounty Hunter. Good chapter 1, really bad chapters 2 and 3. I agree with that. Nothing really else to say. I enjoyed playing as Bounty Hunter for a while, capturing bounties, but it soon lost its novelty and I lost all interest.
Yeah, I have to completely agree. I think chapter 1 is fun because it's, oh yay, look, I'm a bounty hunter. And there is a piece, I think it's like just a little mini interlude between chapters 1 and 2, where you're accepted by Mandalore the Ultimate? I don't know. Mandalore the something. To enter the ranks of the Mandalorians. Yeah, chapter 2 is all about finding blacklist targets.
Yeah.
They had the perfect opportunity to send you off on something interesting by becoming a Mandalorian.
Well, we were talking about Mandalorians off the record yesterday, and we would just like to send a disclosure to anyone who RPs as a Mandalorian. Stop. Just stop. Because 9 times out of 10, it's not that good. I suppose it's each to their own, but come on.
Learn what a Mandalorian is, please.
Thank you.
Please and thank you.
You are not the love child of Mandalore the Preserver and, Mandalore the Indomitable or whatever. You're just...
Yeah.
Right. Moving on. That's a personal stigma that I have. Just needed to get that out of my system. I've got some shit I need to work through. We have our last Reddit comment, which is, Warrior is my favourite. Haha. I would just like to say. This is by Aramis X, by the way. He says, great action, great antagonist, great dialogues, good light side and neutral options. Essentially, the class story really tells the tale of the galaxy's greatest weapon.
Yeah.
There's nothing, we've talked about Sith Warrior quite a lot this episode, so there's really nothing else we can add on to that.
No.
But, my man, I love the Sith Warrior storyline. He loves the Sith Warrior storyline. He is right, you are wrong. So, nothing to say?
I think we've covered everything we can possibly say about the Jedi, or not the Jedi Knight, the Sith Warrior.
Yeah, I think we have to. So, with that, we will end our podcast. Don't forget to use my referral for in-game bonuses. Contact me on Twitter or Reddit. Contact info in the description. Leave feedback in the comments. Like and subscribe to see more. I've been Kettlecord. That's going to be the first thing in the video. Han Solo should have kicked Darth Vader in the nuts. And then the intro. I'm going to make a montage at the beginning of the video of just me kicking a bunch of people in the nuts.